They were hyped to dominate the streets, but ended up stalling at the starting line. From broken promises to mechanical disasters, these bikes didn't just fail, they face-planted in front of the whole world. Welcome to Sportsbike Fail's Top 5 Worst Launches in History, where big dreams met brutal reality. If you think every Superbike launch is a success story, think again. Let's dive into the disasters manufacturers wish you'd forget. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got tons more motorcycle content coming your way, and if you've ever owned one of these bikes, drop a comment below and tell us your horror story. Coming in at number 5, we have the MV Agusta F4 750 from 1999. Now, before you start typing angry comments, hear me out. The F4 was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it looked like it was designed by angels and built by robots. The problem wasn't the bike itself, but rather MV Agusta's catastrophic launch strategy. Here's where things get educational. Launching a premium sports bike isn't just about building a fast motorcycle. You need dealer networks, parts availability, service training, and quality control systems. MV Agusta had been out of the motorcycle business for over a decade when they tried to resurrect themselves with the F4. The launch was plagued with issues that teach us important lessons about market re-entry. First, there were massive production delays. Bikes that were supposed to arrive in spring showed up in late fall. Second, the initial build quality was inconsistent, with electrical gremlins that would make a British bike from the 1970s blush. Third, and this is crucial, dealers had no idea how to service these exotic Italian machines. What makes this particularly tragic is that MV Agusta eventually figured it out. Later versions of the F4 were absolutely brilliant, but that initial launch nearly killed the brand's comeback before it really began. Number 4 takes us to 1985 and the Suzuki GSX-R750. Wait, what? I know what you're thinking. The GSX-R is a legend, and you're absolutely right, but let me explain why its launch was initially a disaster, which makes its eventual success even more remarkable. The GSX-R represented a fundamental shift in sports bike design philosophy. While everyone else was building heavy, touring-oriented bikes with fairings slapped on, Suzuki created the first true race replica for the street. The problem was that nobody, and I mean nobody, was ready for what this bike represented. The launch disaster wasn't about the bike's capability, it was about education and market preparation. Suzuki essentially threw a MotoGP bike into the showrooms without properly explaining what customers were getting. The GSX-R had aggressive ergonomics, a power band that required skill to manage, and handling characteristics that could bite inexperienced riders. Dealerships reported massive numbers of crashes in the first few months. Insurance companies started refusing to cover them. Motorcycle safety groups called for investigations. The media had a field day with stories about killer bikes and death machines. For our number 3 spot, we're traveling to 2003 and the Triumph Daytona 600. This launch failure teaches us a crucial lesson about understanding your competition and market positioning. Triumph was riding high on the success of their retro classics like the Bonneville and Speed Triple. The British brand had successfully carved out a niche as the authentic alternative to Japanese and Italian bikes. So when they decided to enter the hotly contested 600cc supersport category, expectations were high. The Daytona 600 wasn't a bad motorcycle. It was actually quite good in many ways. It had distinctive styling, decent power, and that characteristic Triumph triple-cylinder engine note that sounds like nothing else on the road. The problem was timing and market analysis. By 2003, the 600cc supersport class had become absolutely ruthless. The Honda CBR 600RR, Yamaha R6, Kawasaki ZX-6R, and Suzuki GSX-R600 were engaged in an all-out horsepower war, with each new model year bringing significant improvements in power, weight, and technology. The lesson here is profound. Sometimes being different isn't enough if you're not competitive in the metrics your customers actually care about. Our runner-up is the Bimota Tesi 1D from 1991, and this failure teaches us about the dangers of over-engineering and niche market assumptions. Bimota was known for creating exotic, limited production motorcycles that pushed the boundaries of design and engineering. The Tesi 1D represented their most ambitious project yet, a sports bike with hub-center steering instead of traditional telescopic forks. From an engineering perspective, hub-center steering offers theoretical advantages. No brake dive, more consistent geometry through the suspension travel and potentially superior feedback. The Tesi looked like it had arrived from the future, with its distinctive front end and aggressive styling. Here's where the launch went catastrophically wrong, and it's a lesson in understanding market readiness for innovation. The Tesi cost nearly double what a comparable Japanese superbike cost, but its performance advantages were primarily theoretical rather than practical. Professional testers struggled to adapt to the unusual steering feel. The hub center system eliminated familiar feedback cues that experienced riders relied on, creating a steep learning curve. While the system worked as designed, it felt alien to riders accustomed to conventional motorcycles. The Tesi's failure illustrates a crucial principle. Revolutionary engineering means nothing if the market isn't ready for it, can't afford it, or doesn't see clear benefits over existing solutions. And finally, our #1 worst sports bike launch in history, the 2000 Honda VTR1000 SP-1. Wait, hold on. Before you start preparing your angry comments, let me explain why this incredibly capable motorcycle represents one of the most spectacular launch failures in sports bike history. The SP-1 was Honda's attempt to create a World Superbike Championship winner that could also serve as a road bike. On paper, it was everything enthusiasts had been begging for: a V-twin engine for character, cutting-edge chassis technology, exotic materials, and direct racing heritage. The engineering was absolutely brilliant. The SP-1 featured Honda's most advanced technology, a sophisticated fuel injection system, titanium and carbon fiber construction, Olin suspension, and Nissan brakes. This was essentially a race bike with license plate brackets. So why was the launch such a disaster? The answer teaches us about market segmentation and the dangers of creating a product that fits between categories rather than dominating one. The SP-1 was too expensive for typical sports bike buyers. At $17,000, it cost significantly more than the CBR 900RR, but it wasn't exotic enough for the premium market that might consider a Ducati 996. Honda had created a motorcycle that was too much bike for most riders, but not special enough for collectors. So there you have it, 5 spectacular sports bike launch failures that teach us valuable lessons about the motorcycle industry. The common threads are fascinating: misunderstanding your market, poor timing, inadequate dealer support, and the dangers of creating products that don't clearly fit existing categories. What do you think? Did we miss any spectacular launch failures? Have you owned any of these bikes? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more motorcycle content. Until next time, keep the rubber side down.